Hello and welcome to the first edition of Catching Up with Clutch Sports Media alongside Larry Larson. I'm Joey Wright, and we are pleased to be joined this afternoon by Adam Duvall of the Peoria Journal Star. Adam, first of all, before we dive into anything, we haven't chatted with you since March. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, guys. It's great to be back on. Remember the last time we talked, we were talking about cancellation of the state basketball tournament and all that went along with that, and ended up bleeding over into the spring, and spring got canceled, and now we're end of July, and obviously the big news of the day. So that feels like it's been a non-stop from the middle of March to now the end of July.
Right, and now it seems, at least to some extent, like things have come full circle a little bit. Last time we talked, we were talking about cancellation of fall sports. Now we've got fall sports coming back. Wednesday, July 29th is when we record this. And Adam, the big news of the day is that the IHSA has put into place some guidelines for the resumption of sports. Swimming, cross country, golf, and tennis will all resume this fall, but some other sports, soccer, volleyball, and football, they'll have to wait till 2021. So kind of break that down for us. What went into the IHSA's decision today?
Well, We'll backtrack just a little bit. About 3 hours earlier, when Governor Pritzker had his daily noon briefing, where he announced that youth, high school, and adult recreational sports were going to be placed under new guidelines. For example, they tiered them, the highest to the lowest risk, and a low risk, obviously, golf, tennis, higher risk being football. And there was some speculation that the IHSA had not talked with the governor's office, but IHSA executive director Craig Anderson, he had a call this afternoon, and he said that he had anticipated that he was going to put his plan, the IHSA plan, out today, and then Governor Pritzker would speak. Mm-hmm. And all that changed. And so Governor Pritzker went on and announced, and that kind of, scooped the IHSA, so to speak. And then the IHSA around 3:30 or so came out with their release.
So for those of us who weren't on Twitter during that time, of course, the IHSA planned on coming out with that announcement at 2 p.m. So it does kind of sound like the IHSA was a little bit blindsided by the press conference. Do you think that was the case, or have you heard that was the case?
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, the plan all along was for IHSA Executive Director Craig Anderson to present the plan that had to be approved by the IHSA Board of Directors, and then Governor Pritzker would announce, hey, these are the new restrictions, new guidelines in order to have youth, high school, and adult recreational sports in Illinois. And then, Craig Anderson said he got a text message right before it happened, and he said he'd been in contact with the deputy governor for about a week and a half, and it was just it was kind of a surprise. I mean, Craig Anderson, sounded like he was surprised that the governor's office kind of had pulled that before the IHSA could get their announcement out.
Mm-hmm. It was a confusing day on Twitter, to say the least. And another thing that kind of blindsided people was, I think, Adam, a lot of people were expecting bad news. But now it comes out today, of course, that 4 sports, as we mentioned, swimming, cross country, tennis, and golf, will play this fall. What have you heard from coaches and athletic directors today? Because, again, as we say, a lot of people were probably thinking that we wouldn't see anything this fall.
Yeah, I talked to Richwood's boys golf coach, Patrick Hogan, almost immediately after, and he told me he was really expecting negative news, and but they received positive news, and he was excited to tackle the opportunity to coach his kids. He said he had met with his kids earlier today, and he said it was kind of business as usual, but at the same time, he's going to be excited to, excited to be able to, have golf in its traditional season, which is the date is August 10th through October 24th. And of course, the state series is right now up in the air. But yeah, and then speaking with someone like Lewistown AD Greg Bennett, he was another guy that was real positive. He said it was good news. And the IHSA is planning to have the sports, even though it's going to be a tremendous shift in the schedules. He says, the fact that they're still planning on having sports is better than seeing the whole fall thrown out.
It will be a big adjustment for athletic departments and for coaches. What have you heard in that sense as to, what kind of an undertaking this will be for athletic departments, especially moving big sports like football to the spring?
Well, I gotta reference Greg Bennett again from Lewistown. He said it's going to be a brave new world out there. When it comes to dealing with schedule, he's in a new 4-season format. I mean, the traditional fall, winter, spring is out the window. I mean, you have the new format, which is fall, winter, spring, and summer. So yeah, I mean, and one aspect, I know Lewistown doesn't have girls swimming, but both boys and girls cross country, as well as girls swimming, will get 2 seasons. So believe it or not, they will do their traditional fall, and then they'll come back in the spring season with football, with boys soccer, with girls volleyball is from February 15th to May 1st. So that's another aspect of, hey, this is what's going to happen. We have runners that are going to end their season in October and then start again in February. Mm-hmm. And, schools are limited to a maximum of 2 contests per week and no tournaments or events of more than 3 teams. So, I mean, that in itself, when you're volleyball, for example, when you're playing, 2, maybe 3 matches a week and then going off to a tournament on Saturday, getting in, 8, 9, 10 matches in a week. And now you're limited to 5. And that's going to be a huge, huge cut in the schedule.
Mm-hmm. Have you gotten any sense of perhaps how the IHSA will handle scheduling as we kind of move into this season? Because, the coronavirus pandemic is ever evolving. Is there any sense of what the IHSA might do if a season was compromised, or if a team was compromised, I should say, by the virus? Perhaps as we get into the winter months, maybe one volleyball team comes down with an outbreak and that leaves another team without an opponent. How might the IHSA handle that if they've?
Well, so they've defaulted now to the Illinois Department of Public Health, and so it's all on the Illinois Department of Public Health now. So if the the IDPH comes in and says the IHSA is in a position to commence with these sports, all those sports are going to be banged. So that's kind of the doomsday type, feeling when it comes to the, what potentially could happen.
Right.
And of course, on that note, this season will really have to be different, especially with these fall sports. How exactly will this season look different in relation to the normal, say, golf into account and indoor sports like girls swimming? Spectator limitations, perhaps, and how are teams going to handle travel? Have you heard anything about that?
So, I mean, the spectator is subject again to the IDPH guidelines. Less than 50 participants, social distancing, masks, etc. So, I mean, that's kind of what's going to be, what's going to happen. All competitions boys and girls golf, for example, they're going to be within the Illinois COVID region or within a conference. So if the conference of one of their conference opponents is in a higher region with COVID numbers, then that's not going to allow that match or duel or round robin tournament to take place.
Gotcha. And you'll notice Larry and I wearing our polos from our respective high schools. Urbana and Belvedere, not nearly in the same region. So it'll absolutely be interesting to watch and see how all this plays out. Just as I say, different parts of the state, maybe experience the virus differently, and as it develops.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not going to see hardly any ADs, putting their teams on a bus and traveling all the way to, if they're Peoria, maybe even to the Quad Cities, or going down, to, O'Fallon or the, St. Louis metro area to play games. You're going to see a lot of regional scheduling. You're going to see, Peoria High, Peoria Notre Dame, Peoria Manual, all those teams, potentially playing Middle Illini teams, or you're just going to see a lot of repeat in conference opponents, which, with the limitations that are placed on football, which again, the football, if they're looking at a minimum of a 7-game season, regular season, and then a regional type playoff system. So that's going to be alleviate a lot of the travel and that type of thing.
Yeah. Interesting, I will say, Larry, that the IHSA a few months ago voted to move away from the prospect of a regional scheduling system for football, and now Mother Nature, if you will, has kind of forced their hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And a conference like the Middle Illini that has 8 teams, that's going to be a no-brainer. I mean, you drop those 2 non-conference teams and you just play your conference opponents. But yeah, I mean, other teams, IVC in Chillicothe, for example, that's going to be one team that's, maybe going to be scrambling a little bit for regional opponents, or maybe they'll, be willing to travel. So I'm not really sure, all those, T's have to be crossed and I's have to be dotted.
For sure. And I know one thing a lot of fans were confused about, and we chatted about it a little bit, was the whole levels concept. Of course, football is at a high level of risk. Say basketball and volleyball are a middle level of risk. Baseball and softball are at a low level of risk. I understand that they didn't give any clarification with that level system.
Correct. Yeah, there hasn't been any clarification, which is, going to have to, as this is developing. I mean, how new this is. I mean, we're less than 3 hours removed from this release, so yeah, it's very, very fluid in what's going to happen.
Brave new world for all of us, as people are saying. Adam, that's about all the time we have here. Thank you for joining us on the first episode of Catching Up with Clutch Sports Media. And I'll just say, it's new to all of us. Who knows how this all plays out, but we'll have to see.
Larry, Joey, I appreciate you having me, and yeah, I hopefully Clutch Sports is up running again, and I don't know if you guys are equipped to cover golf matches or cross country, but hopefully I see you guys out there.
We've been talking about it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get a golf cart and try to construct some sort of mobile studio, or who knows what we'll do. But if there's a way we can cover these games, swimming, tennis might be the most feasible for us. But if there's a way we can be out there, we will certainly be out there.
Yep, we're definitely in preliminary discussion, so stay tuned.
Absolutely. Keep me posted.
Yep. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you.